Would you actually believe I watched this version of Beauty and the Beast before the Disney one? Don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. So Beauty and the Beast 2014 is directed by Christophe Gans, written by Christophe Gans and Sandra Vaughan, and pardon my French, this stars Léa Seydoux, Vincent Cassel, André Dussolier, and Eduardo Noriega. So in Beauty and the Beast, this merchant father stumbles upon a seemingly abandoned castle where he plucks one rose for his youngest daughter, Belle. But then a giant like monster beast thing comes out and tells him, "Oh, because you plucked a flower from my garden, that's gonna be one life for one flower, so go home, say goodbye to your family, come back, and be my slave forever." But Belle will not have this, so she goes in place of her father, and then romance ensues, I think. Now, just like The Impaler that I reviewed a while ago, I actually watched Beauty and the Beast sometime like beginning of September, and I didn't review it because I was thinking, again, do I really want to do this? But since I have the time, I might as well get it out of the way. And like I mentioned in my intro, no, I have not seen the Disney version of Beauty and the Beast in its entirety. I've seen lots of scenes from it, but I just haven't seen the whole thing start to finish. And I know I probably should, but hey, at least I won't compare this one to that one, because walking into this movie, I expected it to be like, mediocre or something, but I didn't expect it to be this bad. This movie is really bad. First of all, it's obvious that this movie really is a showcase for just way too many visual effects that don't make any sense, because every single shot in this movie is so oversaturated with lots of CGI, whatever. It's like if Alice in Wonderland and Maleficent had like a French baby, it would be this. And as this movie goes on, like, just lots of random things keep happening, like vines attacking people and giant stone statues, and they feel so out of place within this whole story. What sucks is that the visual effects do end up obscuring whatever beauty the production design may have had, because the longer you look at these visual effects, the more fake they get, and that really affects the way you look at the entire movie. And we have to touch on the Beast. The way the Beast looks, he looks like X-Men Beast, but he's brown and he's completely fake. Like, there's no makeup on him whatsoever. He's just like a CGI lion talking. And overall, this movie is just very inconsistent in style, because when you have the Beast that looks like this, and suddenly you have a bunch of tiny beagle things that have like really big anime eyes, and it just the style of this movie just really jumps from being really morbid to being really cute suddenly, and it's really, really strange. And you'd expect that a movie with a lot of CGI and stuff would be at least, entertaining at the basest level, but this movie is boring. I mean, the first like 20 minutes of this movie are kind of interesting because you don't really know where they're going with it, and then nothing happens afterwards. Like the whole setup makes no sense. It's just trying to lead to a certain situation, and the rest of the movie really is just paced as like a visual effects showcase, and it's boring. Once in a while throughout this movie, they will jump to a flashback also, and it gets really confusing when they do jump to a flashback. Like, I feel like it's not edited very well at all, because well, in flashbacks, it's obvious that the prince is the Beast, but the flashbacks come so suddenly that you don't know when to think, oh yeah, we're in the past. And I swear, throughout this entire movie, there's so many scenes that just add nothing to the story and aren't even entertaining at all. Like, this movie is 1 hour 50 minutes, and it no reason to be that long. But the thing that makes this movie really just unbearable to watch, in my opinion, is that the plot just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. You're never really sure why the main conflict even happens. Like, they don't really explain why, because the merchant dude got a flower, suddenly, he's sentenced to a life of servitude. Like, they never really explain it, and you could attribute it to the Beast just being an evil dude, but it's not like that. And this entire story is just driven by these characters doing wildly inconsistent things with their characters. Like, Belle is supposed to be all against um, being held captive by the Beast and stuff, but then the thing she does, it's like, why would she even go back? Actually, let me revise my earlier statement. I don't think there are any characters in this movie, because, my definition of a character is someone with personality, with a use in the story, and with some sort of motivation. And, everyone in this movie has pretty much the same personality. They're all stuck in the 19th century. There's no color to anybody, so it just feels like a blank palette. And, everyone has really unclear motivations. Like, you don't really know why Belle, chooses to stay with the Beast. You don't know why certain characters, want the gold just because they're greedy. Then that's a really shallow motivation, and no one has development. And any of the development that happens in this movie, you don't really buy it at all. And the main character development thing that you do not buy is the romance. Beauty and the Beast is supposed to be the one of the classic romance stories. That much I know. But here, the romance here is 100% Stockholm syndrome. Like from the beginning of the movie up to the end, you don't see the point where Belle falls for the Beast or vice versa. It just, I don't know how it happened. The funny thing is, I was watching this movie, and while the romance stuff was going on, like the dance that's supposed to be romantic, which absolutely isn't, when it was happening, I was thinking, you know what, I'd rather go back to the family. That was more interesting. Then they do go back to the family, and I was like, no, it's still not interesting. You really can't care about the family because they're not really that likable at all, and they don't really have any direction. We don't care about anyone in this movie, like especially the Beast, who's supposed to be sympathetic. You're supposed to cheer him on. You don't have any reason to do that. In terms of acting, this movie does have a couple of French A-listers on it, if you could say so. Léa Seydoux, who was in Blue Is the Warmest Color, which I have not seen, and Vincent Cassel, who was in Black Swan, which I have seen. But even if they are known as good actors, doesn't mean they can't give good performances all the time. Because Léa Seydoux in this movie, she should really be way more scared than she is here, and way more conflicted about hanging out with this Beast, because you don't really buy her at all, especially her declaration of love or whatever. It's just so forced, and I literally was just like, what? Vincent Cassel also fails to make the Beast feel tortured or scary, because he does the voice for the Beast, and he just sounds exactly like Vincent Cassel, so, there's no difference there. And, as the prince, he fails to make the prince sympathetic or, vulnerable or anything. Again, you don't care. Okay, to be fair, Andre Dussolier, who plays the merchant father, he gives the closest thing to a good performance in this movie, but he literally has nothing to work with. And, everyone else is just as misplaced as him. They don't have any character to work with. And the director, Christophe Gans, he just really clearly lacked any sort of focus with this movie. Like, it seemed like his main priority was visual effects, and he just ended up throwing a bunch of stuff on screen, trying to see what stuck. Nothing stuck. And, instead of him trying to go for a real identity for this story, because when you have a classic story like Beauty and the Beast, the least you can do, because you can't really replicate like what Disney did with it, the least you can do is try to look for your own kind of special way of telling it. But this does not have an identity, really. And when all else fails, you can just go for the romance. Like if you try to make this movie feel like a storybook or a fairy tale, it'll really simplify things for you, and it'll actually make us buy the visual effects more. But overall, because of his lack of focus, Christophe Gans really just, his tone is completely messed up in this movie. It goes from really awkwardly cutesy to really dark, like all of a sudden, and he doesn't really do either very well. Beauty and the Beast is a piece of garbage. It's a terrible movie in my opinion. It doesn't, at least it doesn't weaken my resolve to watch the Disney version, so I probably still watch it now to get the taste of this out of my mouth. And this is just proof that not all foreign films are good, because there's some people who think that, oh, because they're from another country we have to respect them. No, film is film. It's same standards wherever you go. It should be. Alright, so that's my review for Beauty and the Beast 2014. Have you guys seen it? What do you think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.